Hello and welcome to our viewers on ASI News Broadcast, bringing you the latest top news for today. U.S.-China in candid exchanges ahead of Obama trip. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and a top Chinese official had candid exchanges over several contentious issues dogging relations between Washington and Beijing, an American diplomat said. The pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong, human rights, cyber spying, and disputes in the South China Sea, all areas where the two nations have clashed, were on the weighty agenda in talks between Kerry and visiting Chinese State Councilor Yang Jiechi. Yang's trip to Kerry's hometown of Boston and the 2 days of talks on Friday and Saturday were also aimed at paving the ground for U.S. President Barack Obama's trip to China next month. A senior State Department official hailed the talks, which took place in what was described as an unusually informal atmosphere, as unprecedented and substantive. The pair covered bilateral and global issues such as Ebola, North Korea, and Iran's nuclear program, where the United States and China hold broadly common views. But they did not shy away from, quote, a set of candid exchanges on areas of disagreement, problem areas, aimed at narrowing differences and finding ways to manage them effectively, end quote, the official said. And that includes human rights, and Secretary Kerry, as he always does with the Chinese, raised both the basic universal principles at stake and very specific cases, the situation in Hong Kong, which is very much in the news and on people's minds. Kerry and Yang made brief statements to reporters before they sat down on Saturday. Washington's top diplomat was eager to highlight, quote, many issues that China and the United States are cooperating on, even as we have some differences that we try to manage effectively, end quote. Yang said that the often fraught relationship between Beijing and Washington should be based on, quote, mutual respect. Obama travels to Beijing in November for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation APEC summit and is expected to hold talks with President Xi Jinping on the sidelines. Missouri officer says he feared for life before shooting unarmed teen. Government officials briefed on a federal civil rights probe into the August 9 killing of Michael Brown by Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson told the New York Times that Wilson had said he was pinned in his car and punched and scratched by Brown in the moments before the shooting. The government officials, who were not identified in the Times report, said forensic evidence collected from the patrol car indicate Wilson's gun was fired twice, with one bullet striking Brown in the arm. The other missed, according to the Times report published late Friday. Reuters could not independently confirm the report and could not immediately reach officials of the Department of Justice for comment. Brown's blood was found on the gun, the interior door panel, and the officer's uniform, the newspaper said. The Times report did not address the issue of why Wilson shot Brown at least 6 times after the teen was outside the patrol car. Brown's death sparked weeks of angry protests in the St. Louis suburb of Ferguson over the community's distrust of the police department and drew global attention to race relations in the United States. A grand jury is considering charges against Wilson, who has not spoken publicly about the matter. Protesters want Wilson arrested immediately and have called for the appointment of a special prosecutor. The U.S. Justice Department in August launched an investigation into Brown's death, and outgoing U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder on September 4th announced a broader probe into whether the Ferguson police have engaged in a pattern of civil rights violations. Several witnesses have come forward to media outlets, including Reuters and CNN, saying they saw Brown trying to surrender to Wilson and was holding his hands in the air when he was shot. Other witnesses told local media in St. Louis on the condition of anonymity that they saw Brown staggering towards Wilson despite commands to stop. The New York Times report said the officials familiar with the Justice Department probe were not Ferguson police officers, nor were they individuals whose actions were being investigated in the civil rights case. And those were the latest top news from the American Studies Institute from Tehran. Thanks for joining us. You can check our website at www.asipress.us.